Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Cemetery Club. Hi guys, we are on page 98, and Joe Chambers is going to sneak out of town when Charity and his son Brett leave for their trip. So his plan is to get the next door neighbor. They're going to go into town, watch a ball game, drink a lot, and try and pick up women. The morning that Brett and Charity are supposed to leave, Brett is outside and he sees Cujo emerge from the fog, and Cujo is growling and he doesn't look right, and Brett is really freaked out by Cujo's appearance. So he stands there not knowing what to do. Cujo eventually recognizes Brett and remembers that he loves him, but it's very difficult for him to do that. Quote, "There was enough of that feeling left to hold the image of murder at bay until it grew as murky as the fog around them." Page 103. So Cujo, with great effort, turns back into the fog and goes away so that Brett is saved. And Brett just stands there not sure what to do. He thinks he should tell his dad, but he's a little concerned because his dad is kind of grumpy and he's worried about ruining the trip that he and his mom are going on. Charity tells Brett not to mention Cujo to Joe, and she says if he's really sick, he'll act weird around your dad and your dad will take him in and fix him up at the vet. So Joe drops Charity and Brett off at the bus station. Vic leaves Donna and Tad. He goes on his business trip. Vic tells Donna, drop the Pinto off at Chambers' garage and get it fixed. End of story. So now we're at the next door neighbor's place, and Gary's outside. Cujo emerges, growling, disheveled, obviously rabid. The guy knows, he's seen a rabid dog before. He knows that Cujo is rabid, and he tries to escape, and Cujo tackles him on the porch, and it is a brutal attack. Cujo bites him, there's punching, there's flailing, there's dog fur. It's a really bad situation, but the guy, Gary, manages to escape. He gets inside the house. He's gonna go get his gun and shoot Cujo when all of a sudden Cujo bursts through the screen door. So now Cujo is in his house, attacks him, bites his throat out, and he's dead. So Joe's back at home. He's getting ready to go pick up Gary, and he can't find Cujo. Cujo's nowhere to be found, and he's starting to think, well, who's gonna feed this dog while I'm away on my little secret trip? And he's thinking about that. He goes over to Gary's house, and he sees the blood, he sees the destruction of the screen door, he sees all this stuff, and he thinks that someone has come to Gary's house and murdered him. He goes in the house, sees Gary laying there at the end of the hall. Quote, "Gary lay in a pool of his own blood. His eyes glared sightlessly up at the hallway ceiling. His throat had been opened. Not just opened, dear God. It looked as if it had been chewed open." Page 131. So Joe freaks out, and he sees that there is dog poop on the floor, and he knows that it's Cujo. He knows that Cujo was there. He's the one who killed Gary, and Cujo must be rabid to have done that. So he immediately kind of barricades himself in Gary's kitchen to use the phone. So he shuts the windows, he shuts the doors, he is taking precautions in case Cujo is still around. Well, Cujo was hiding in the cellar because it was cool and quiet down there, and he comes into the kitchen, he noses the door open, and as Joe is trying to make his phone call, Cujo attacks him and kills him. Donna and Tad have run some errands, and the Pinto is acting up again, and Donna talks to Vic, and he says, well, take it out to Chambers' garage if you want. And she says, well, I tried calling and he's not there, so what if he's not there and not coming back for the day, kind of thing. And Vic's like, well, he most likely is. A guy like that he doesn't leave and go away. And he said, just call the dealership then and get them to look at it, get a tow, and then get a rental or a leased car. And she's like, but that's expensive, and she feels guilty, and she's burdening him with her problems while he is trying to deal with his business problems. So she's, feeling like, well, maybe I should just take it out to Chambers' garage and, not worry about it, not worry my husband about it. And so that's what she ends up doing. She and Tad leave at 3:45 in the afternoon. So they kind of wind out of town and they're passing fewer houses, and the space between the houses is getting larger. They're seeing very little traffic. Once they reach a certain point, there's just no traffic at all. And they drive past Gary's house, where Gary's car is parked, and then Joe's car is parked because they were going to go on their trip, but now they're both inside that house dead. They keep going. She gets to the Cambers house and pulls into the driveway. The Pinto dies, like right there in their driveway. Just stalls. She's near the barn, and there's the house. She gets out of the car. She's gonna let Tad out. All of a sudden, she hears growling and realizes that Cujo is inside the barn and he's growling. And she books it from the passenger side to the driver's side. She needs to get in before Cujo can get her. And it's very tense, very, very scary, where she has to run all the way around the car, jump in, shut the door, and Cujo launches himself against the car door. So there's a whole bunch of, freaking out on everyone's part. Cujo's trying to get in the car. She's trying to keep him out of the car. He gives up and he goes around to Tad's side, which the window on his side is open, so she's trying to roll the car window up. Cujo sticks his muzzle in and she ends up, rolling up his muzzle, and finally he gives up, but it's really scary. And Tad says something about, why did the monster from my closet come out of the barn? So she was a little unnerved by that, but it was the monster in his closet. So she starts laying on the horn. Cujo doesn't like it, it hurts his ears. He has jumped onto the hood of the car and tried to get in through the windshield. That's not working. The horn scares him off. He has retreated and, quote, "Where was the dog? She couldn't see him anymore, but it didn't matter. The dog couldn't get in and help would be here shortly." Page 160. So naive. She figures if she makes a ruckus, it will draw attention. Nothing happens. She starts doing Morse code, and then after a while, when no one's coming, she realizes that she might drain the battery and she should stop because nothing is coming from this. Now it's 7:15 p.m. and Donna hasn't tried the car engine because she's been wanting it to kind of cool off, and it's also one of those you're afraid because if it doesn't start, then and that sucks. But at least there's still hope if she hasn't tried it yet. She's now going through this dilemma of should she, because Cujo's not in sight, so should she get out of the car, run to the front door of the house, and try and get in? She could, but if it's locked and she can't get in, she's a goner. And, Tad will be left alone in the car. So she decides that the best thing to do is to start the car, which will alert Cujo again and get him all riled. And, that's the trade-off. She can do one or the other. She doesn't really have time to do both, and there would need to be another break in time for her to do the second one. So she decides to start the car, and it starts, and then it stalls again after just going a little distance. It barely makes it. So she is beyond frustrated, and she has a slight nervous breakdown in the car and kind of scares Tad because he thinks that she's angry with him. And then Cujo is, in on it, and he's barking and all riled up like before. And so now the car's not started, so she can't do anything with that, and Cujo is right there again, so she can't attempt to get into the house. So that is where we will leave it today.